Alright, hi everyone. Been clearing out some of my my things that I had lying around. Got some new drawers and sorted things out and came across these feathers that I made quite some time ago, and so I thought I'd give them another go because it might be a good thing to do with some younger people that I work with. And they were made with magazine pages. Now I seem to think that when I first made them I might have used a glossy magazine. That is actually something that works quite well, but I've put metallic paints over the top, so I'm going to get that effect in the end anyway. So the only magazines I actually have are matte ones because they tend to be the ones that I save more. So if I remember rightly, I just fold the magazine in half and basically put the wire. I have this wire that I got from our local hardware. It's a aluminium wire, 2mm, which means it's actually quite bendy and it's quite easy to manipulate into shape. And also when I got these ones out, I hadn't already done it, but I just got some pliers and put a little rounded bit at the end. It makes it a lot safer to deal with. It means that you've got something to hang it up from if you wanted to use it for that. So all I'm going to do to start with is just curve the wire a little bit so I have that shape for my feather. I guess I want to have it hanging out the bottom. Just trying to remember what I've done quite some time ago. Might just chop the white edge off. I thought those colours could just add something to it as it comes through. This one I might actually use the darker side, and I'm just going to trim that bottom piece off because I need to have the wire poking out from there. Okay. Right, step number one. I'll just use this matte medium that I've got sitting here. That'll do good. And I want plenty of glue to glue the whole thing down. Oops. Some avalanche just happening next to me. Obviously it is going to get cut, but you do want to make sure that it's really well glued together where you're going to make the cut for the edges of the feather. So I'll just place that in there. About the middle of that one half, and just glue it down so make sure that the glue's nice and firm around where the wire is, because it's obviously the sort of vein, I don't know what you call it in a feather, central part of the feather. Might need to, should be alright. If we end up with any bits that aren't glued properly, we can always fix that afterwards, but it should be okay. So again, when you glue, possibly more than I needed, but I'd rather they were glued well down really well. As I say, I'm pretty sure I made these with glossy pages before, but I don't have any at hand, and I quite fancy just giving this a go. So if this isn't as successful as the other ones, I know where there are some glossy magazines that I can get next week. Okay, just pop that over. Let's move it over a little bit, I think. Should be okay. That dry, and then there'll be some painting, some cutting, some mark making, and see how that goes. So I've done a bit of a trail around of a shape on a piece of card, how to draw a feather. Can't see that very well, I don't think, on the camera. But it's not too tricky a shape to draw, I just need a bit of a base at the bottom and then come up and make the little indentations, and the wire's just bending around a little bit. So I'm coming up to sort of match with that, a little bit of a base at the bottom. Oops. I find it easier to do it on one side than the other, so and it doesn't matter if they don't really want to match up and be exactly symmetrical, but once I've got that, I can either cut it out now or paint it. I have a bit more trouble drawing it on this dark one. I might have to use a gel pen for that one. So I'll give this one a go. Hope the dog doesn't start again. He doesn't like me talking to other people, whether it's on the phone or he obviously can't figure this out. I can't do the other side. I'm sure it'll be alright. Okay. So I'm just trying to decide whether I'm doing things in the right order, because the advantage of painting it first really is that you don't have to worry about edges because you've just gone over the edge and can cut it out there. So I might do one way, one the other, see what I'm happiest with. So I'll cut out this one because it's going to be harder to see the marks later. I'm just going to go up and catch the edges of all those pointy bits and then go back in the other direction, I think, because I think that will be easier than trying to turn on every little bit. Get rid of that excess. I think this feather's turning out a bit big really, but I don't think it matters. So I'm trying to decide what I'll do after the paint. Might do some sort of doodling on it or stamping. Of course I could have used a bit of fancy paper and maybe done some gel printing or stenciling or something first. I think that would make life a little bit easier. And I can just adjust shapes as I go up. I don't quite like it, and my wire goes fairly to the top on that one. Okay, so around here. It's a bit like when you draw a Christmas tree or something, that one side seems to work the best. I guess it might work to turn it over and do it on the other side, but that could get a bit confusing as well. I'm sure it will all be fine in the end because it doesn't need to be perfect. There we go. Pretty happy with that. I thought the ones that I'd made before were big, but I seem to have got a little bit carried away with these ones. That's okay. Right, let's get rid of that rubbish. The other advantage of painting before we cut out as well is that you don't have to worry about the edges or putting anything underneath. Of course the lines that I drew might show, but we can always get rid of those when we're cutting. So I'm just going to give it a base coat. This is just some cheap metallic paint. Depending on what magazine you choose, you can get some interesting patterns underneath. This is just text, but I chose it because it had these different bands of colour that I thought might add some interest. And of course I need to do the other side as well. So get both sides done, maybe even give it a second coat and then we'll cut it out. So doing the other side, I'm just basically painting what I think is the sort of shape of the feather. And of course, if I haven't gone out far enough, I can always touch it up afterwards, but it's way outside the boundaries of where the picture is. And just use up the paint I've put out and give this side a bit more. Once it's dry, I might even get another colour just to add some sort of random pattern to it. Okay. Okay, so I've got the same metallic paint but in gold this time. Okay, give it some time to dry and maybe touch it up with another coat if I think it needs it. I use some of this to use up the gold as well, so let's add a bit to that other one. Here are my feathers. The paint's dried, so I'm going to try some stenciling on one, which again I probably should have done before I did anything else, was paint the paper, maybe do the stenciling, but I didn't, so we'll see how this goes. So I've got some just black acrylic paint, which I'm going to try and use nice and sparingly, because we know what happens when we get too carried away. It oozes out. So let's get a little bit on my sponge and dab it off. I'm not sure if this is going to show. Yep, looks pretty good. It doesn't have to be too intense, and it doesn't have to be everywhere, so this one hasn't been cut out, so I can be fairly random about where I put it. Hopefully that hasn't squidged. That's all good. A lamp I keep knocking over, and I'm not sure if it's better when it's up or down. Not exactly sure where this stencil came from. It's just a fairly cheap one I've picked up from a local store. Came with about 4 different shapes, which I actually use quite a bit because they're just little random shapes. I think I can risk turning that over and doing the other side. It's not very wet, so this time we'll use the little triangles. Need just a wee bit more paint. And I think we just made it. Oops, that was overlapped a little bit. It'll be fine once it's cut out. Okay, so that's the painting one. And I thought on this one I'll do some stamps. So let that dry. And this is quite shiny. I'll try it with stays on. Yeah, sure, I feel like this needs a bit of re-inking, but I don't have any re-inker for it, so let's see what happens. Again, it doesn't have to be exact. These two stamps are from Viva Las Vegas stamps. I bought a few of their stamps at one stage, and then, as we tend to do, they've been hiding away, and I think I better use them. So yeah, quite like that. I don't know how much you can see. It's fairly subtle. Just for interest's sake, we'll put something different on the other side. Just a sort of random honeycomb. Actually, I ink it all the way along. Let's do it this way. Just about go down the whole shaft of the feather, couldn't it? Might even be able to curve around a wee bit. And the other way. I feel like it needs something on the ends. Maybe just do a little bit of this again. Oops. And I might be smudging. Okay, I think what we'll do, I don't want to overdo it, and then I'll be sorry that I spoiled it. So that's the gold one, and that's the copper, which now needs cutting out. It doesn't really matter, I just don't want to wreck it at this stage. Okay. Could possibly do with a bit more of something just down there. That's okay, I'm quite happy with that. Just tidy up that paint a wee bit. And there we have it, our two feathers. I just got my pliers and made a little hook, and it can be hung up. It's really soft wire, so it's quite easy to bend around. There we go. And they look pretty cool. Okay, thank you for watching. Try this if you want and let me know if you do. And I'll see you next time.